Spooky Tuesday.
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff, and once again, I would like to welcome you back to Planet of the April, a month where we're spending all of April talking about Planet of the Apes.
The Apes.
All
Um,
month long, baby.
Apes are
all
having a
month,
moment,
all ape.
so
Yeah, I know we have said monkeys in the past, but as I clarified last episode, and as you may have seen in this movie, that's actually a really offensive term to use. So no,
Mm.
Oh
please
yeah,
nobody say
are
that.
bad.
they made that
Um,
very
they made
clear,
it
but
really
I
clear.
Uh-huh.
might be saying it later in this episode.
I do think scientifically, like monkeys and apes aren't the same. I do think that's true.
No, yeah, they are
But
different. But are
I'm no
chimpanzees apes?
zoologist.
Looking it up,
They
continue
have
what
to
you were gonna
be
say.
because of this movie. I must assume.
I'm sure they
Um,
wouldn't have got that wrong. You're
they
so
wouldn't get
right.
they get
They
everything
would
perfectly factually
never.
correct in these movies. But you know, if you were here last week, hopefully you were here last week, because otherwise you've got a lot to catch up on this week.
Hmm.
But if you were here last week, you joined us as we covered Planet of the Apes and Beneath the Planet of the Apes. And now it is time to move on to the third film of five films in the original franchise. This one is 1971's Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Get out of here.
Get out of
Bye.
here! That's what they gotta do. They gotta
Bye.
escape
Bye.
because I don't know if you guys remember, but they sent off the doomsday nuclear bomb that destroys the whole
Yeah, they
planet at the end of
they
the last
nuked.
movie.
They
Yeah,
nuked the Earth. They nuked
and
the Earth and they said that means no more movies,
yeah,
right?
they nuked the Earth, and
Wrong.
then they had a voiceover come on and say, "Earth is dead now, guys. Please don't
By
ask
the
us for
way,
another sequel." You guys asked us for a sequel. We weren't prepared to do that, but we gave you one. Don't ask us for another. 5 seconds later, okay, we're making a third movie.
Actually, there's
Um,
gonna be 5 movies, guys.
Actually, we're just
So
gonna keep going. Yeah, at the end of this one, we'll talk about the ending way later, obviously. But at the end of this one, they're like, "Oh, I just know they're gonna ask me for another movie, so I'm building myself a little out at least." Um, we're small prepared for it at least this time around. But they really thought that Doomsday Bomb was gonna wrap things up nicely,
they
and it
really
didn't.
thought, but
They
you
really
know what?
thought.
They were dumb to think that because even though the last movie was fucking so
something.
dumb in so many ways, but like interesting and exciting and wow, they
Yeah,
took off their face. That was cool.
that was
Um,
cool.
it had a $4.6 million budget and it made $19 million. So you think you're getting away without another movie? You're
No
dead fucking
way.
Another
wrong.
one.
They all
Apparently,
five debuted number one at the box office when they came out. They were all hits. So
apparently after Beneath the Planet of the Apes and it doing so well, screenwriter Paul Den was famously sent a terse telegram that simply said, "Apes exist. Sequel required."
yeah,
Oh
that's
God.
that's the simple reality of it. And he was the guy, we didn't really
Duh.
talk about him much last episode, but he didn't work on the original. He was like brought in to like help with the sequel work to be like, well,
Mhm.
where
Mm.
do we go from here? But when we were announcing this episode at the end of last one, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, I was like, that's kind of a spoilery title. And then I was like, well, they don't know yet that they literally escaped from the planet on a spacecraft.
Yeah. No,
So
I
I
don't
was
know anything.
wondering,
And
That's
like,
like
what
also
did you
fine.
guys expect a third
time
movie
travel.
would be?
Did not expect that.
Oh my God. What were you guys thinking when you were like, there's another movie after they
Well,
exploded the Earth?
I was thinking that literally anything could happen and they could just be like, no, it didn't. Because because they did that essentially in the last movie. They were just like, oh yeah, Taylor, he knew we were gonna come and be there right after him. That it's me, Brent, and I was always gonna come here right after Taylor. And then they retconned within their own movie, and they're like, of course we were a rescue mission sent to find Taylor. They literally couldn't keep it straight in one movie. So I was like, they can do whatever the fuck they want. They will.
Whatever they want.
They will do whatever the fuck they want. So I was ready for anything. And honestly, thought this one was gonna be more fucking insane after the second one. But it was probably the most robust retcon I've seen in a long time. Rivaling Han being alive in Fast and Furious. So
That was a good one.
that was a good one. I was happy to have him back, okay? And I'm happy that the whole world didn't explode and there was just nothingness. Can you imagine the third one was just like rocks
empty space
floating
for
in
an hour and a
space?
half. Yeah.
My
You get
first
one shot of burning Earth.
my first thought immediately was, did the apes get a helicopter?
Like Monica said, the apes had helicopter in the book, so you never know.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
Okay.
were they lying about aircraft flight this whole time? And then I was like, oh, people? Question mark. And for a hot second in my brain, I was just like, oh, was maybe New York just eliminated and outside of like a perimeter?
The doomsday
there
bomb.
was
It is 2,000 years old. Maybe it's not as effective as they thought it would be.
in my brain, it was like only New York got bombed and only
Yeah.
like the apes take over New York, and then everywhere else is just
But
like
they're
so
like,
That's
regular.
why they
in a
kept
dome?
saying
A little
the
bit, yeah.
city of the
They
apes, because
pretend.
actually, if they just traveled one state over, New Jersey's still there.
They'd never gone past can you imagine? That would be so fucking crazy. That'd be so crazy. If like finally they did the second movie completely different. And the apes are like, we must travel past the forbidden zone. Is there a jungle there? And they get past the forbidden zone and it's fucking New Jersey.
It's oh, hold on. No, it's better. They're at the Jersey Shore. There's gorillas everywhere.
Wow. There's a lot there that they didn't do. Instead they did mutant humans worshiping a bomb. They're so close to something great.
And there's still time. There's still time for more They're still making more Planet of the Apes movies.
They could do that at any time. They should
Contact
do a
us
comedy one.
immediately.
We have ideas. Yeah.
Get in on the ground floor.
Yeah, I think I maybe I wouldn't say that I overhyped the third movie, but I think I gave some mixed messages, because the reason that I thought you and Ashley in particular would be so interested in this one is because of the 70s Los Angeles vibes.
Yeah.
I liked that.
But also, I think the premise of this one is the craziest, most bonkers, hysterical, where they go, oops, we exploded the world. Don't worry, your favorite apes escaped on a Taylor spacecraft that they pulled out of the water. Actually, we've been studying it for a long time now. Dr. Milo is an expert. You don't need to ask any questions. And they escaped, and they went through that same crazy wormhole wrinkle in time that Taylor did, but because they were going the opposite direction, they actually went back in time. So now they're in 70s America.
That's true. That is true, though. And I've seen it happen so many times. So honestly, it's a little overdone at this point in 71. I was shocked that they reused.
That's an old concept.
That's a dated concept, especially now in 2025. Yeah. We've seen it 40 times now since this film. No, but I love that. I love that so much. And they did try to flesh it out a little bit more in the original script. And if you want to look at a very janky website that I have linked in the show notes, someone put together their best amalgamation of like little screenshots and the like someone reading the original script of the opening of this movie, because what it originally was going to be. And I'm really glad they didn't do this, because I think the cunty sleigh opening of them being like, the Americans being like, what the fuck?
The shocked into silence, the music playing as everybody's just like,
they're like, what's going on? And they all have their guns out. They're like, what the fuck? And
Mhm.
then they're like, hello, astronauts. Hello, gentlemen. And then it's like, actually, they're apes and there's a chick ape.
Right? Well, they
They're aponauts, which is such an incredible word that they
Ooh.
use in this movie.
It's true. Yes, that's the natural thing to call them, of
yes,
course.
yes.
But they did have like a whole bunch of like preamble stuff where it was the apes in
Oh yeah.
Milo, Zira, and Cornelius were in the ship and they watch Earth explode. So they filmed all of this, but it didn't make most of it was lost on the cutting room floor. So this video is very not incredible to be so clear, and it's obviously not the actors saying the words, or at least it didn't sound like it to me. But it was interesting. And then they kind of like have a conversation after like they go through the space wormhole. They're like, if we survive the aftershock, what will happen? And they're like, I don't know. And then they're like, ah, and then they're okay. And then they're like, oh my God, there's humans. We should be quiet. We shouldn't talk until we figure out what's going on. So that's why they're like quiet.
Yeah. And they
Not
kind of
Miss
just
Zena,
like
though.
Zira's always
Yeah.
got something to say. They really built that in later though. They like put them in the zoo by themselves and then they were like, now you can explain what's going on. And it's Dr. Milo's there to be like, we don't know what their deal is yet. And they're gonna be scared of us. And it's also like, yeah, you guys know that because it's very much exactly what happened with Taylor, except the shoe is on the other foot now. So just a
Yeah.
little critical thinking would get you there just fine.
I think it's super interesting how like I get it. It's 1973. It's not now. It's not 2025, but they should have had a plan about aliens already. They did. They must have. The plan cannot be
When's
bring them to the
Roswell?
fucking zoo.
Wasn't
The
that
plan
like in the
cannot be
50s?
bring them to the zoo. That was in the
Yeah.
50s. Yeah.
So
The, they should fucking be quarantining these animals immediately.
they
I'm
did
sorry.
quarantine
At
them
the
just in the
zoo.
zoo with the other animals,
No, it was
including a
not
depressed gorilla.
oh my god, the other
The
ape-like
person in the
creatures
gorilla
in
costume.
Right.
in this movie, both gorillas in question are fucking well, one's a gorilla, one's an ape. Or
Hmm.
sorry, one's a chimpanzee. By the way, I looked it up and chimpanzee are part of the greater ape family, and so they did get that right. And I'm
Thank
sorry that I
God. That would
questioned
have
it.
been
Yeah, how dare you
horrible.
question it?
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to fact check and make sure. It's good to fact check in this day and age,
It is
Chelsea.
so good. Yeah,
It's so
you're right.
important. Anyway, those were abominations, those fucking suits. Those were abominations.
I
Oh
love the
my
depressed gorilla.
God.
I love the
I
depressed gorilla so much.
I always forget how large gorillas' heads are and like what weird shape they
Big
are.
boys.
But
but
this
it's not
suit,
like that.
that's what I was like. This suit, I was like, I don't think that's right. Question
It's surely not like that.
mark.
Oh my God. I think it's so funny because this movie, like I don't know if all five, they all had subsequently smaller and smaller budgets. I think that is the
I
case.
think, yeah.
Yeah. So the last one, like I said a second ago, was 4.6 million. This one was only 2 million. But it was helped out a lot by the fact that they only had okay,
Funky.
three
Three
funky,
funky 70s
three
apes.
monkeys.
Don't call them that.
Three funky apes to worry about, and they did. I think the makeup looked good for those three.
Yeah.
Milo, as short lived as he was, but like they could have just tried a little bit harder with it. They only had two other they only had two other things they had to think about. The other chimp and the other ape. We could have thought about it for 1 second. You like the mask was falling down so you could like see the eyelids of the
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
underneath it. I was
It's a little scary.
I was horrified. I was terrified.
But they, if they had done the same makeup that they had done in Planet of the Apes, I think there would have been
No, it
studio
can't.
concerns about like, are they intelligent creatures or are they apes of our world? You know what I mean? They needed to have the
Well,
distinction.
body can
Well,
look different, but it doesn't have to
and
look like
also,
I don't know
one
a
would be
demon.
not wearing clothes.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
true.
like they'd be naked apes and clothed apes.
But
Exactly.
we
They
don't
could
want to
make
be
them
like,
smaller or whatever, but it's like anatomically not
yeah.
correct. The way that it moved was not right. That's not what the gorillas look like.
Well, they did their best, okay? It was 1971.
They only
I
had
do.
$2 million.
Okay, one thing that I do love about this movie, like I said, I watched Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and then I just came home and I just like watched these on Hulu, just like do. I was like watching it like they were episodes of a TV show, which is small tangent, they did make a Planet of the Apes TV show,
Oh
and
yeah.
you're lucky we're not including that. You're off the hook.
I know you were
Um,
thinking about it.
I
This
was
is
thinking
a movie
one
podcast, thank
podcast
God.
episode for every
Patreon
episode, and you're
exclusive.
lucky because it only went for 6
Planet
months
of
before it got
Planet
canceled.
of the Ape Planet of the Ape year.
Mhm.
Right.
We'll be back next April, and we're gonna do all of our
And
favorite
the
TV
April
show
after
episodes.
that. And the April after that.
There's lots of material to go around. But
Anyway,
no,
there
I
was a
was just
show.
like, I was just clicking through. So it didn't occur to me really to like read the descriptions for any of the movies or look up the marketing for any of the movies. I will read the IMDb log line for this one now while we're on the topic. It reads, "The world is shocked by the appearance of 3 talking chimpanzees who arrived mysteriously in a US spacecraft. They become the toast of society, but one man believes them to be a threat to the human race." Which is like, I don't know how they were marketing this movie at the time. The IMDb loglines for this movie give way too much away. I loved being able to go into this movie blind and
Same.
to have them be like, I think that is such an ideal way to watch for them to be like, guess what? We traveled back in time. And I think if I had seen a trailer for, I don't know how they possibly would have done a trailer for this movie without revealing that, you know
Spoiling?
what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know how they did that at the
I
time,
almost
but
watched the trailer today and I didn't.
thank
But I
God you
didn't.
didn't.
No, well, after I had
Oh,
already
after, that's
watched
right.
it. I watched it for the first time yesterday, don't you worry.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Had
See,
some time to
okay,
think.
I think it would have been cool to be like totally surprised by this movie, but here's a thing that I think is a positive about the movie, not a positive for me being surprised, but for the movie in general.
Okay.
Like this one, I don't think is as crazy as the last one, like I already said, but I do think it's really fucking interesting. And I think it actually like has a really interesting plot, though it's very silly, bonkers, cuckoo, banana clubs a lot of the time.
Mhm.
Like it is also like asking some really interesting moral questions. And
Yeah.
this movie, I would say, is the most faithful in a weird way to the book. It's almost exactly what
Hmm.
happens in the book, but it's reversed.
Yeah.
So like this is the way things play out when Ulysses, French man who goes to the planet of the apes, which is
Mhm.
Earth in the far future. Like it's very similar to what happens to him once he's captured, just like deleting the like part same thing that they got rid of in the first Planet of the Apes where they have to like learn the same language to learn how to talk to each other and blah 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 blah. It's like the exact same thing. He like finds like Zira and Cornelius find 2 humans that are compassionate towards them. Same thing. Ulysses finds Zira and Cornelius, or I don't remember if Cornelius is in the book. And like the the press conference thing that happens in this, like that, like exactly almost happens. Like what they say is different. But like that exact thing happens in the book. And the suit part that happens in the book where like they put him in a suit, whatever. It's very faithful to that and it's faithful to the moral questions that come up in the book, which made me like the book so much because I was complaining the first movie that like they didn't make the apes seem as advanced as they do in the book, which was like detrimental to the apes and like kind of made them seem like dumb in general, that they couldn't get to the same place in like technological advancements as the humans had done. And that we already discussed last episode was due to budget constraints and they couldn't make that type of technology for the sets for the movie. So I get it, but it was cool to see it play out opposite. Like I don't know. It was just cool because I
Like
really
Zero
liked
saying goodnight to the TV because they don't have TV on the
that show was
Planet of the Apes.
so funny. That show was so funny.
And then everybody laughs at her, and then she goes hee 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 because she wants to laugh too.
She doesn't know.
She's
She's
so
like, I love to
cute.
laugh. She's so cute, but she, yeah, confirmed is racist towards gorillas.
It's like she
She's
stays on
hella,
that gorilla racism
she
beat.
Right?
fucking hates them, man. She's just like everything she says. She's like, by the way, fuck gorillas. I'm
And
like, oh
fuck
my God.
orangutans too while we're at
By the way, they
it.
also fucking suck, and chimpanzees are the best.
Yeah, no, I was thinking while I was rewatching this movie, I was thinking, and after we talked about last episode, about what you were saying about the book, and I think not everything, but you're going to see some of that in 2001 Planet of the Apes as
Mhm.
well, that maybe you might not remember from whenever you last saw it, which I assume was
I
a long
never
time
saw
ago.
2001.
Oh, okay. Oh, you've only seen Rise.
Yeah, I've only seen
Got
Rise.
it. Okay, yeah. So I think there will be interesting stuff there. But I think this one does give you a lot of what you wanted from the books. And
Yeah,
also, it really mirrors Taylor's experience in the
yeah.
first movie as
Mhm.
well. Like, do they hide that they can speak? Is it a shock that they can speak? This like initial communication and like being held in a cell because to them it's not a cell, it's just a cage for an animal. And the trial, like the same thing happens at the trial, but it's interesting the differences in the trial, but
Yeah.
like the conclusion being like, oh, we just have to sterilize this one animal or person and then it'll be fine. Like they do the same thing to Taylor at his trial where they're like, we'll geld him. And then they have that conversation here too. Like it
Yeah, I
really
forgot about that
is,
part.
it's super interesting.
Also, like the games, the intelligence games that they play with Zero, which I
Mhm.
absolutely love that scene so much. That also is something that they do in the
When
book
she's
too.
like,
Yeah.
And they're
She's
like, why won't she get the banana? I don't fucking like banana.
because I love bananas.
Bananas.
Okay, Queen, go off.
and apparently Kim Hunter, the actress who plays Zira, actually hates bananas, and so
That
that was
was
her idea.
true to life.
I'm so obsessed with her.
Yeah,
She's so iconic. Do you notice this thing she does? I don't know if they just did her makeup the best, but I found that her snoot. I feel like I'm looking at her right now. That's why I'm looking up. Sorry. I have her and Cornelius on my TV right now. I think they made her snoot like closer to her face, like touching her
that's
face
so.
more because she can move her face so much more than Cornelius can. Like when she talks, her mouth moves better. And she also does this thing that kind of reminds me of the
Oh,
witch,
bewitched.
yeah, the
Yeah.
little nose twinkie, the little nose
Samantha
twitchy.
from
Yeah,
Bewitched.
from Bewitched. That's what it is. Anyway, but yeah, what were you gonna say? What did you notice that with the makeup?
I was gonna say that's interesting because IMDb trivia says she had extra padding under hers, because they were filming in winter and the latex of the prosthetics was terrible insulation. So it was like hot when they were hot
Mm,
and it was cold when they were cold, and she would be just like freezing. So they had extra padding in there. So I wonder if that like helped telegraph her
I
movements more.
don't
I don't
know.
know.
Well, I think they also might have tried to give her like slightly more feminine lips if I'm looking at this. Not like she's got DSLs or
They were
some
like,
shit.
she keeps kissing everybody, so we do need to be emphasizing these lips.
Don't
Correct.
even get me started. I have a whole theory for this movie that is probably gonna offend people, but it's right there on the page. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like her mouth snout goes like down more. It's flatter to her face because like the Cornelius was talking so much in this, and I love him, and I'm glad
And then
that
it
the
was just kind of
Roddy,
like, yeah.
yeah, what's his name, Roddy Howell, he's
Roddy
back.
McDowell, I
Roddy
think.
McDowell. Oops, that was close. Um, he was Cornelius in the first one, and then he was recast in Beneath, and then he came back, or he just didn't want to come back
He
for
was
Beneath.
he was directing his only directorial movie that he's ever
Oh,
done when they were
well,
making
that's
this
a
sequel,
good.
so he wasn't available.
I'm glad he came back
Yeah.
because
I
He's
think he
really
he is
wanted to. It
good.
just like
beauty.
didn't work out. And given that we don't actually see him at all, I think they were like, well, we can just
We can
put
get away
somebody
with
else under
it.
that
I
makeup.
knew.
Yeah. Did you?
I, I honestly did notice that it was he seemed different, but I think that I also read something that was like blah
Oh,
blah blah
tipped you
didn't
off.
return. So maybe I just internalized that, or maybe I just knew. You ever think about that? Maybe I could just tell. No one will know. I'm not gonna. I can't fact check myself. Ooh, he's hot. By the way, just so you know,
Oh.
He
Roddy
hosts the
McDowell is hot.
documentary that talks about all of the movies. So
Oh,
maybe you'll see him
okay.
later.
Oh, may he rest in peace. Why did I think that anyone was from this movie would still be alive? But I did get so upset. Yeah, I thought this one was really fascinating. I could not believe it was set in LA. That was a shock of a lifetime. When they roll up to the fucking LA Zoo, I know we're still in the literal opening right now, but like, oh my God, I can't believe they're at the LA Zoo. I live right next to the LA Zoo.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Could go there right now, and I could
Basically drove
find.
by it on my way home.
Yeah,
I love driving by the LA Zoo all the time.
Mm-hmm.
it's just a terrible plane, but I love the whole like seeing the government and how they would react to something like
Mm-hmm.
this. Thought it was so interesting. And then I love the moral quandary like that is in the book and is in this where they're like, "Oh, these apes don't look anything like us. They're literally apes, but they can talk just like us. They're literally married. They did a cute little kiss. They
And
did
everybody
a
went,
cute
yeah.
little They're like, can you speak? Can the male speak? Only when she lets me. They love a dig at women. If
That was
anything
Taylor's
about
favorite
19
part.
they're like, I'm gonna come to these Americans where they live with some light misogyny. They're gonna go fucking crazy for that. And they did. Cornelius knew. Cornelius knew.
Classic marital comedy.
Mm-hmm. And I also I loved when they're like, "This is my lawfully wedded spouse," and the priest is like, "What?
What?
I died. This movie is really funny too.
Yeah.
It's so
Yes.
funny, and then it gets so fucking horrific.
The ending is super. I mean, they love a bleak ending in this franchise.
Oh,
They
yeah.
fucking love it.
It
I was
was
not
part of
expecting
it.
that though.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that is different from the book, by the way.
Yeah.
Be so clear that doesn't happen.
Yeah. They don't shoot down Nova and Taylor and Nova's child who can speak. They don't do that in the book.
They don't do that. They
Wow.
That's
don't.
crazy. I don't know why. I think it's the obvious ending.
I don't know if I should say how the book ends because it might be like the end of one of these movies
Yeah.
at one point. So I haven't said it yet.
You can
That's
reveal
why.
it on Rise, maybe. If
I'll
no, you
reveal
could
it
probably
on
do it on Planet of the 2001.
Yeah, I feel like at that point. But I feel like they've gone back to the original text and been like, "Oh,
Ooh,
like
yeah,
3
they
times
definitely
now."
do keep pulling
So,
inspiration.
yeah. So, which is good. The book is real good, by the way. Just I'm going to keep saying it.
Yeah. I do. I've been thinking about it so much because you love the book, and I was like, obviously a lot of it was budget constraints, but I also do feel some of it was like that is not that many of these questions aren't universal and just like human in general, but I think they wanted to speak specifically to like the American political situation.
Yeah.
And so some of that needed to be adjusted to be talking about like science versus religion and civil rights, blah blah blah. We got a little tiny sprinkle of abortion in this one, just to connect it back. And
Yep.
I mean, Roe v. Wade hadn't happened yet, you know, so just to contextualize that.
Yeah.
So they were ready to do a little ape-bortion, even before it was legal.
no.
But
Oh no.
Listen, it's always been legal for animals.
Ape-Bortion.
look.
I'm
Because
dead.
animals have more rights than we do.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I think that, like the documentary was saying, and like we touched on last time, even though it's incredibly obvious how political the first two movies are, they really were able to get away with it more because it was like sci-fi and like technically it was our planet, but in many ways it was
Yeah.
like another planet and like another
the
world and blah blah
Apes
blah.
were doing this. Yeah.
It was apes, yeah. And then because they had laid that groundwork, they were able to go back to 70s America, 70s Los Angeles and go, you look at yourself in the mirror. You are the ones doing this, and like really get into it this time
Yeah.
around too.
Ugh. Okay, well, I don't know if I want to talk about something smart or something dumb. I'm doing dumb.
Okay.
Okay, here we
Okay.
go. Here's my modus operandi for this. That's not the phrase I wanted to say. We're going with it. This is my hill I'll die on for this movie. Let's talk about Dr. Lewis Dixon real quick and Dr. Stephanie Branton.
Stevie.
Stevie? Is that I forgot that was her
Yeah.
name in this. She's so cute. I love
That's Albina, by the way, from the
from
second
what?
one. Albina, the blonde
Really?
beneath mutant. Yeah,
Oh!
she was like married to the main producer, I think. So she wasn't in the first one, but they do just keep bringing her back and giving her a new role.
I love her, and they did a great job because I would have had no idea
Yeah.
until you said that. I had no clue. And she had cunty
She
outfits
was
the entire
platinum blonde
time.
Yeah.
before. Now she's just regular blonde, so she's different.
So she's different.
She's
She's
not
wearing those
wearing, what is
funky
it, a snood?
glasses. She's not wearing a snood. Snood off, unrecognizable. It's
Uh-huh.
really crazy. Um, but I think almost immediately there is a palpable sexual tension between Cornelius, Zira, Dr. Lewis, and Stevie, and
Yep.
Dr. Stevie, excuse me. And it's crazy. It's crazy. And I wish that I could live in an alternate universe where the end of this movie didn't play out the way it did and they just become swingers and they
Ah,
share the baby and they raise it as a beautiful blended family.
they become a
Um,
gorgeous polycule.
a
We'll say
beautiful
I don't know that Stevie was
multi-species
ready for
polycule.
that, but
No, dude, I have evidence. There are
okay.
vibes between Cornelius and Stevie. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. There's vibes. There are vibes happening. They also share a kiss. May
They do.
you,
Yeah.
lest you forget.
But it's
My
kind of Cornelius initiated, and so many times in this movie something happens and then Stevie goes, ooh. So maybe I just projected that onto that scene. I don't think she did that in that scene because she had
no.
genuine feelings and it was an emotional moment. Um, but she's funny.
There's a point when they're at the party
Hmm.
when the I almost said the M word, but I'm not going to.
Uh-oh.
I decided to care. The apes are all dressed up in their 70s garb, which we need to dive into more.
Yeah.
And they're like, "What do you think about human women?" or something. And Cornelius looks at Stevie and he's like, "They sure are human." And then they like look at each other and they have a little look, and I'm like, kiss, kiss, kiss. And then they do later on in the film.
Okay.
Anyway, I love it feels like the right vibe for the 70s,
Yep.
actually. So I think it
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. So it's
Because the
actually
thing about
staying
the first
true to the
one
culture.
the first one takes place in 1972 in Earth time, technically, but they filmed it in 1968, which I think is so funny because they didn't land on the moon in our real human history until 1969. So it's so beautifully ambitious to be like, we're gonna land on the moon real soon, and I'm so sure we're gonna have deep space travel right after that.
Literally, that's
Um,
the next thing. That's how that
moon,
works.
deep space travel immediately. But
Yeah.
so they just like hopped it 3 years, 4 years in the future.
Mhm.
But they are really in the 70s now in the 70s movie. So at least it's more
They're
contemporaneous.
they're in it and they're feeling the vibes and it's spectacular. Um, one
They're
of the
doing
most
women's
interesting.
lib now too. Zira's at that meeting
Yeah.
being like, women and men share a marital bed, but women have to do all the work. That's crazy.
Women have to make said bed.
I thought she was gonna say that, but she didn't. Oh no, she
she
does. You're right.
she says that. I was like,
The
what do you
marriage
mean?
bed
I
is
was like,
made for two, but every damn morning it's the woman who has to make it. We have heads as well as hands. I call upon men to let us use them. Get him, girl.
yeah,
That's so 70s.
rah.
Get him, girl. Except they do have that moment when Stevie and Dr. what's his last name? Dixon? Lewis
Dixon.
Dixon? Yeah.
Lewis
Mhm.
When they
Dixon.
first hear the apes speak, and then Stevie like gets woozy and he catches her, and then he's like, "Oh, we gotta take Stevie outside." And I was like, "You're woozy too. Don't pretend you're not also having a swoon right now. It's not just ladies who swoon at talking animals."
Come on. Um, I just think, okay, what do you think would happen if an alien came down to Earth? Because they're aliens in a lot of
Hmm.
ways, even though technically they're not. Whatever. We're not getting into that yet. What do you think? Oh, okay, Pigeon Pin. We got to go back to Milo's death because we haven't talked about that though, and I just remembered we haven't, and it's insane. Back to where I was before. Do you think that we would make the aliens celebrities immediately? I feel like in the current year of our Lord 2025, no one's in a place to see an alien and not kill it. But what do you think?
I don't know. I think there's strong possibility that if the aliens that come to visit can talk our same language and communicate with us, big chance they are making the rounds on all the local talk shows. Really big chance that they
True.
are
Mhm.
at red carpet premieres, you know?
They're gonna go unveil the new boat at the Jungle Cruise at Disneyland.
That's what I am saying, girl. They're influencers, but
They're
You know,
influencers.
we're getting them on the radio immediately
That's
for
mhm,
true. That's
interviews.
so true. I loved the Jungle Book reference because I thought
so
one
funny.
prob this feels charged towards the apes. By the way,
For
two,
sure.
my dad worked at the Jungle Cruise probably in the 70s. Uh,
He
so
was
my
gonna
dad would
be
have been there.
the little jockey on that boat for sure.
He would have loved that.
Too bad we didn't get that scene. Can you imagine if they had filmed at Disneyland? That would have been
And it was
hilarious.
That
my
would have
dad
been
was in
so good.
it.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that saved them money in terms of their budget was, and I think that's probably why Los Angeles and not New York. Um, but it
They've
was just
done New
like,
York,
yeah,
okay?
New York is done.
Yeah.
But it just was like local for the studios and everything. So just like filming on Los Angeles city streets, not having to like make anything really meaningfully look any different than it already did. That was like huge for budget constraints.
Mhm.
But
I could be so wrong. But in the montage in the beginning, when they like take them to a military facility, that
Camp
is just a
11.
studio. That is 100% just a studio lot. Like it's just a studio lot. I was like, that's a sound stage. That's a sound stage. Like this beige stucco building is like a studio office. I thought it was so funny. They're
They're
like,
at
no,
20th Century Fox and they're pushing all of the extras over to the next studio.
yep, so fucking funny. That was hilarious to me. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't know. I wish aliens have been happening though. Alien things have been happening and people have been
Yeah.
excited about
Yep.
it. But I think it helps these guys that they look like something that we know about, you know? That they
Yeah.
look like something that we are the masters of. We are the masters of apes, or as it stands in 2025. Um, so I think if they looked a lot different,
Hmm.
like a weird
It'd be a
alien
different
thing with
situation.
tentacles,
Yeah.
it'd be a different situation.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about the alien comparison is also to use an extremely offensive term that I don't use in real life. To jump to the illegal alien narrative of it all, like these are
Mm,
war refugees, you know what I mean? Like that's literally
yeah.
what they are.
Fucking
And I think
Christ.
it also
Wow.
makes a lot of sense for America to be, so glad and proud to have them for a hot second, and then 1 second later go, actually, they're our enemy. And if they stay here, they're going to start having babies, and then their babies are going to
Uh-huh.
start taking
Fuck,
over, and then they're
Kelsey.
going to bring down our
Uh,
whole society. Like, that jump is so immediately
Well, I was
relevant
just having
to,
fun thoughts, but that
I
is very
know.
relevant.
I
God
know,
damn
I'm
it.
sorry. But I think the use of the word alien, it's so offensive, that term illegal alien. It's so dehumanizing
It's
to people.
so
I mean, both halves of it.
dehumanizing.
Um, but in that context, that is so crazy. But it is like crazy applicable here.
No, that is such an appropriate thing. That's just so, it's such an appropriate analogy to what we're dealing with right now. And then it just makes even debating what happens in the later half of this movie feel disgusting, but it's we'll talk about it then. We're not there yet. um wow, yeah. They're really doing a lot of stuff in this that is big ticket, big thinky. And then at the same time, they're like, "Look, it's an ape in a dress."
Yeah.
So
Look,
they're really
she's got a velvet pantsuit.
they're running the gambit of vibes here. It's like slapstick and then like serious as the plague.
Yeah, the third one is like technically like more. I mean, you're gonna get crazy whiplash when you watch the fourth movie. But the third movie is like silly and funny if you like just kind of surface level the politics and just ignore the ending. It's just like they're so jokey, silly. It's so crazy. And then they're like,
So
and there's
crazy.
the circus and like it's so silly.
Okay, before we get too far away from it, I want to unpigeon pin Milo's death because I forgot his name was Milo the whole time, the first time I watched this movie, and so at the end when she names the baby Milo, I was like, I love that name.
Cute.
That's so nice. It reminds me of Journey to Atlantis, and so I like it. And then I watched the beginning of it again today, and I was like, Monica, you fucking dumbass. I don't listen to names. Unfortunately, it's my cross to bear. But Milo's death was so insane because he's killed by the fucking abomination ape.
Fucking gorillas, they're always violent, they're always monsters. Here they go again.
Yeah, and like just the look on that gorilla's face was just so disturbing. And then like the fact that every animal in the zoo screams when it happens. What was going on there?
They could
that
just
was just to be
feel
fun.
it, you know?
Wow, they're like something big is happening, something that defies nature is happening right now. That was crazy. I was like, they really wanted to do something for dramatic effect. They were like, we're shooting at the zoo and all these animals are here. We might as well get a shot of every single one of them.
Let's just walk around and we're just gonna really hammer it home for you.
I thought that was literally a hilarious part. Like the elephant's like, like, no, not Milo. That's what it felt like, that they all like felt this pain from him. And I was just like, you don't know Milo. But all animals love each other, of course. There's no such thing as a food chain.
It's also so funny because it's like, why did Milo have to die? Other than they were like, well, you guys we don't know him. You guys just care about Tyrion and Cornelia. So he's there to explain things and sort of like help set the scene. And also, if you want, you can really read into it and go, well, I know that we accidentally took like 23 years off the clock between Planet of the Apes and Beneath the Planet of the Apes, but we're going to imply anyway that time has passed because Zira and Cornelius are no longer in trouble, other than Cornelius has to fake hit his wife when she's being uppity in public. Which was also, there was a line in this movie where Dr. Dixon, I think, was like, the female is uppity, and everybody was like, what else is new? So classic. And Milo's death happens, I think, if I'm remembering right and looking at my notes, because Cornelius goes, calm yourself, and then Zira goes, and then the gorilla gets upset.
Yeah.
Dude.
Classic woman freaking out, but actually that is the natural endpoint of a husband telling his wife to calm down. So that one's on him.
That is on him. Yeah. It's so interesting because like maybe they killed him off because like he's the one who like understood the space travel part of it, and then they would have had to explain it out loud more than in that fucking interview part with the painter and the landscape, and the painter has to have himself in the painting, and it goes on. I was like,
the landscape, so something is missing. He's got to repaint it.
Throw it back to our 5th episode, literally ever. We did Donnie Darko, and there's some fucking time travel shit in that, and that is where we coined 3 beautiful idiots right then and there. When I was watching that part, I was like, this isn't for me to know.
Boo.
This is above
This
our pay
is
grade.
I was like,
Right?
I'll look at the picture and it looks very nice. And how interesting he painted it 400,000 times. I was just like in one ear, out the other. I'm
Mhm.
sure it made some sort of sense, but actually, no, I'm not because nothing else in this movie makes any sense. Like, everything is retconned so to shit. Like, another point that I thought was ridiculous and was an outrageous retcon was in the press conference, like slash interrogation thing,
In the
when
trial.
they ask Cornelius, "Do you speak English?" And he's like, "English? What's English?" And they're like, "The language you're speaking." He's like, "This is the language of the apes. And we have had this language for all of time. And the apes learned it from blah, 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 and blah, blah." Like, I can't remember exactly what he said,
I
but it
have
was
the
all this
quote.
stuff that literally is not something that Zaius would allow them to have known.
Well, the quote is, "What is English? I speak the language taught to me by my father and mother, who were taught by their fathers and mothers before them. It has been the language of our ancestors for nearly 2,000 years. As to its origins, oh, who can be sure?" Which is him being cheeky. He says, "The gorillas and orangutans of our community believe that God created the ape in his own image and that our language," and he gets cut off. So, like, that's
Okay,
the
Yeah.
party line that he
that's fair.
offers.
That's fair.
Yeah, and then Zira butts in and she goes, "Nonsense. Cornelius, as an intellectual, you know damned well that gorillas are a bunch of militaristic nincompoops." There she goes again, just talking about how they're militaristic
Just
nincompoops and
being a
orangutans
little
are.
racist.
I don't even know what she said. She said something that sounded like blinked pseudoscientific geese.
Yes,
I love
that
that.
is.
I love
I was
her.
excited because I was like, oh, calling someone a goose is an interesting insult. I
But
liked
yeah,
it.
they definitely address the origins of the world so very blatantly
Hmm.
in this movie, and I kind of take issue with it a little bit, just because I don't like that story as much as I like the implications of the first movie, that they just sort of like slowly evolved that way over time, starting from like a natural point of like nuclear fallout or whatever, or like nukes taking out the world enough that evolution could progress on its own. And I like that aspect of like history repeating itself. But they sure do go, yeah, there's the sacred scrolls that the orangutans are talking about, where our, what did they call him in the first movie? Like
Oh no.
our creator or holy
Yeah,
leader or
Yeah.
something
whatever
like
he was
that.
called, I can't remember.
And then he goes, "Actually, here's the real deal, and it's also in the sacred scrolls." And the only way that I
This
can like,
this is that's the part. Sorry, that's the part that I meant when
yeah,
he talks about the plague on the dogs and all
mm-hmm,
of that shit. That shit he wouldn't know. That shit like never would have been a
right.
thing.
This is my theory. My
Go.
theory is there's a line in Beneath the Planet of the Apes where Cornelius and Zira are in their home, and she says something about their child. Oh, she says, "At least our child when it's born," something something something. And because I had seen the other original movies, I went, "Oh, okay, interesting." There are like obviously she's already pregnant at that point in the story,
Hmm.
confirmed by the third one, but I don't know if they play into that yet in the second one. But so there's the implication that they've gotten married, gotten pregnant, already went through whatever trouble was the fallout of the first one. Dr. Milo's been studying Taylor's spaceship and dragged it out of the water. I think it's my theory, the only way I can explain it is a big chunk of time has passed, and they've spent that time like further excavating and learning and getting documents they didn't have access to before. And Jace
Yeah.
was like sort of their friend a little bit more in the second one, and it's like, just don't tell everybody else. So
Yeah,
I
okay,
I
that's
think there's
fair.
like room for that. I just don't like it as much.
I don't like it either. I do think the dog plague was interesting because I don't know if it said that exactly in the book. Because this is the part in the book where they did an experiment on the human's brain and it made the human tap into its genetic past, as you
Mm.
know. And so suddenly it could speak and it just popped into different POVs of different people. I
I'm
talked about this
Abraham
last.
Lincoln now.
Hello,
Here's
I'm Abraham Lincoln.
emancipation.
Yeah, like
It's
it
very
was exactly like
Disneyland
that.
Hall of the Presidents.
It
Great
was
ride.
exactly like that. But it was with some lady being like, and then he told me to do the dishes to about her ape companion. So I liked that they incorporated that and made it make sense where they're like,
Hmm.
okay, all of the pets in the world were dead. Close your pets' ears, Sydney. They can't hear this blasphemous. And I did like the idea that like humans couldn't survive without having pets because I do like think that that's a thing. But will we go straight to apes? No one knows. I think ferrets first.
You know that line in Community? I don't know if either of you guys watched Community, but
I
there's
have
a
watched a
I
good amount of
love
it.
Community.
okay, there's that line in Community where Britta says something like racism I can excuse, but animal abuse or something like that. Yeah. And
And then
it
she's
just
like,
is
racism you can
yeah.
excuse.
Right. Shirley's like, hold up. But I thought that that was very human, very American to go, yeah, people kill each other all the time, but killing their pets, that is something very different for people, and they don't
It's
like that.
They
very
don't like
different.
that.
Just on the community beat real quick, I was the talent liaison for Yvette Nicole Brown at an event recently, and she's a fucking doll. She was so nice, and her husband was really nice too. So
Hell yeah.
community rocks, and she was in
He
Drake and
just got married
Josh.
recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
he was really cute. He was really nice.
She used to be a
Great
big
dude.
fan of The Walking Dead. She would like
Love that for
be on the
her.
after show and she would like bring her notepad with like things that she'd like taken notes on and needed to discuss.
Do you have lesbian nails right now?
I've had lesbian nails, but yeah.
I guess I haven't seen you recently. They
Remember
look
that I was
beautiful.
like, that's why I need to be one
Speak
of
no
the
evil.
not here because I was like, you won't be
Oh,
able to see my cool nails.
oh, I wasn't looking when you were doing that. I think I was
Monica.
taking my selfie. I'm sorry. Well, they look really good. Okay.
Thank
Anyway.
you.
Yeah, okay. I just don't like it when movies are like, "Oh, let me have
Tell you
Chelsea write it
every
in."
oh.
Let me have Chelsea write it in. Let me have Chelsea write a really beautiful plot that explains it. And she always does, and
She's
she does a
really
really
good
good
at
job.
that.
But don't make Chelsea do that. Do that yourself,
Okay.
movie.
Unless you're gonna pay
Chelsea do
her
a lot of
movie.
work.
As a
Full
writer,
facts.
I would like to say I think something that can be very important is to leave information off the page.
Yes.
But it should be clear, I think. It should be clear that the writer like knows what the deal is. Not
Yes.
they're not leaving it off the page because they're like, that way we don't have to figure it out. But like it should there should be internal logic even if we don't have access to all of the information.
Totally agree. I totally agree. I like things being left up to interpretation too. And like in the Q&A we saw after the monkey back coming back to more ape shit. Okay, here we go. But
And that was
I
a little
brought up a
chimpanzee, so
couple.
that's really
Yeah.
mixing up the confusion between the species.
Uh-huh. But yeah, that's what Osgood Perkins was saying in that
Yeah.
Q&A. He was like, it shouldn't say, "Hello, Charlotte, who I have not seen in 15 years. I've missed you so much." Like it should be implied through the acting and stuff like that. So yes, but there's also a science fiction fucking movie.
Yeah.
And so like there should be some science going along with the fiction, but not too much.
Not too much.
Not too much. Let's not be rash.
Let's not get crazy.
Let's
We
not
don't want
get
to weigh this
crazy.
movie down. We gotta do a fashion show.
I think you guys just was ready to talk about the fashion show. In case you want to know who I'm dressed up as, I'm the woman who modeled the outfit that Zira chose to wear.
Hmm.
So I'm the human woman. And why doesn't that happen at the store where they're just nice girls to wear the outfit for you so you can see what you
That
think?
is
That's
How
the dream.
interesting.
What do you pay people anymore for doing fun little jobs?
No,
that is
they
in
all look
some
so cute.
movie. I almost want to
I'm
say
sure
it's
it
the
was a
original
thing.
Stepford Wives. So maybe this was like a 70s thing for fancy people.
I'm sure it was a thing. It doesn't surprise me. Things used to be everything was a human doing the things
Yeah.
and they made everything special. Like going on a plane was very exciting, beautiful little dress up fancy time. Sounds cool. Honestly, I would do it. I know sweatpants are fun, but what if I drink a martini out of a martini glass in my little outfit with this exact scarf on
With
the
a
plane?
little
Think about that.
cravat.
You've
I mean,
thought
you
about
can do
that?
You just have to bring your own martini glass, Monica.
I know, and if you guys follow Spirited LA, which you should, she literally brings a little case and shakes a martini every time she's in the fucking plane. And I want to live that life.
Nothing is stopping you, Monica. You can do
I
it
don't have a
still.
travel shaker, but I will get
Not
one.
yet.
Not yet.
Immediately looking for Monica birthday gift.
So fucking
That
funny.
was last month.
Yeah, for next year, she's getting ahead of it.
Next
You can
year,
give it to me for Christmas.
You know how I plan Planet of the
Christmas.
April a year in advance? That's exactly what's happening right now with Sydney and Monica's birthday present. So.
I did love the suit part though, because that is straight out of the book for Cornelius. And he's like, "Can I measure your inner leg?" No, that's not in the book. That's not in the book. I'm sorry. I said that very confusingly. But they like in the book, he like is straight out of like them deciding he's like human enough or ape enough, I guess, in that context. There's balloons.
Yeah,
there it is.
He's ape enough to party with them, literally, so the balloons are appropriate. They're like, hell yeah, you've got a brain inside that human head of yours. Well, let's put some clothes on you. And then they have like an ape, like seamstress suit maker man come and make him a suit in like 2 hours, which is really
Which
like
is
that can't
insane.
happen. And he was like, I was so impressed by the ape man who made me my suit. He did it so quickly and it was so nice. And that's like a big part. It's like at least a paragraph
Wow.
of the book. And I was like, whoa, thank God they
Not
put that to
only
film.
is their travel technology advanced, their fashion technology is also
Yeah.
advanced.
And we didn't get any of that in the original Planet of the Apes. It's not fair. I can't wait to see high-tech apes in one of these sequels one of these days. Don't say anything, but I bet it's gonna happen. It's gotta happen. Come on. What about one of the 2021 ones, 2025 ones? They've got ray guns, probably. They got the gun from Halo. She won't say anything because she doesn't want to spoil that they have the gun from Halo.
You know, one thing they did reveal in this movie that I thought was interesting, because I was paying attention the last two movies. I was like, what shoes do the apes wear? And they wear shoes that look like
Tevas?
tabbies.
Yeah.
Tabbies, not. Oh, and Tiva, or not Tivas, the ones that have all your
the
toes.
toe. Yeah, like the one big toe.
Taylor wears the toe shoes, and it is
Vibrams.
the greatest ick I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Your boyfriend.
Vibram five
I'm
fingers.
just like I don't want to look at you. I don't want to touch you when you're wearing these. Like, bleh.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite talking to strangers stories. I was like on the BART in SF, and I was like, "What are those?" to just some man, and he told me literally all about it.
People
he was like,
who
"I feel so
like those
free,"
shoes
and I was like, "I believe
like
in you.
those
I believe you."
shoes.
He loves
People
them.
love those.
He's like, "I can't go back."
And then the
Fucking
tabbies are
cute.
for the fashion bitches.
Yeah.
But
And then there's
in this
also duck
movie-
feet shoes too, where it looks like you have like a platypus foot. Anyway, sorry,
All
continue.
right. In this movie, we see Cornelius's bare feet. So I was like wondering what they were gonna do when he's in his hotel. And I love his robe, by the way.
Oh,
When they're in
love
the
that
Beverly Wilshire Hotel and they're living large, and he's like kicking his feet up, and Sierra's like taking a bubble bath. We see his bare feet for a moment, and they look great.
His robe is so good.
His robe is so good. I want it so bad.
My dad has like almost that exact robe, but
I'm coming to your dad's house and I'm taking it.
It is
Stealing it
so
immediately.
it's like rock hard because it's
We
just
can
been
fix
like
that.
sitting out on a thing for like it's not used for like decades, so it's just been like hanging on a thing for years. And I was like, I'm gonna wear this, and I picked it up and I was like, putting it back down.
Never
Putting it back down.
mind.
Maybe if I washed it with fabric softener, it would help.
Yeah.
But it's got the
wash it with
zany
vinegar.
stripes.
That'll make it softer.
Wash it with tennis balls. Dry it with tennis balls.
Yeah. Put white,
Okay.
like distilled
Okay.
vinegar in there.
It like beats it all up while it's in there. So
Also,
Ugh.
when they first get to the hotel and they're like, "Oh, can I take your suitcase?" And she was like, "No." I immediately
Ma'am,
was
your
like,
suitcase?
I immediately was like, "I like my suitcase." And Taylor goes, "I knew you were gonna say it. I knew it was going on the recording." And I was like, "I'm never gonna not say that. So sorry."
In the beginning, when they first discover that she has a suitcase, they're like, they brought a change of clothes in a suitcase. When that man says suitcase, at that point, my note says this man's saying suitcase versus Baron Trump saying suitcase.
I like my suitcase.
Um,
Outrageous.
what are they? Yeah, he says at that one, he says, "Your luggage, ma'am," and she goes, "Of course it's mine." So that one's fun too.
I love all of her little. When she says goodnight to the TV,
And they're
it's so
checking in, and it's
cute.
like, "Address, please," and they go, "The
The
zoo," and then everyone goes,
zoo.
"Ah!"
They've got jokes. They're incredibly charismatic apes, okay? They've endeared themselves
No
to the
wonder they're
populace.
celebrities.
Uh-huh. And they invite Cornelius to the I love Cornelius at the fucking wrestling match, and he's like, as a chimpanzee, I don't condone violence. He doesn't say that, but that's what his vibe
He's a
is.
pacifist. He's told us
He's a
1 bazillion
pacifist.
times.
Yeah, and they'll say it a billion times more, and then Zero will follow it up with, "Yeah, fuck the gorillas."
They're so funny.
They're
They're
so
so funny to
funny.
me.
And it's so fun and everyone's having such a good time. And then Zero's like, "Oopsies, I'm
She
pregnant."
gets
And
a
then
little
everyone
drunk, yeah, on 3 sips
fucking
of grape juice plus, starts
crazy.
spilling the party secrets.
Yeah, I mean, she did almost immediately tell everyone that she's dissected humans before, so like that wasn't great.
If Milo was
She's
still
not
alive,
gonna.
he
Yeah.
never would have allowed any of this to happen.
Nope.
That's why he
Exactly.
had to
That's
go.
why he had to die so they could
They
have the
said
hot-headed ones in charge.
they said Zira and Cornelius were blown away by a paper airplane in the first movie, so obviously they can't be the ones to figure out how this spaceship works. We need a third guy, but we don't need him after that. So he's got
Was
to go.
he
And
the
that
guy
actor,
in the first one who was like, "I thought you were going to help me get a better job, Zira?" Like in the very,
no,
very
that's
opening of the first one?
Julius.
Fuck. Well, why wouldn't they just make it the same guy?
I
Dumb.
know. It's like, why
Anyway,
wouldn't they make it a guy that we already know? Because there's
Well,
also Lucius, her
Lucius,
nephew or whatever. But
that's who
I guess
I
he's
yeah.
like a
immediately thought it was
young
also.
apprentice. He has to be like an
Why
older
couldn't they bring him
man who like
back?
knows what the deal is. Yeah, Lucius dead.
Oh my God, that means Lucius
Lucius
is dead.
exploded.
Dead! Oh
Lucius,
Oh, my
Julius,
little
Dr. J
peace and
is
love, baby.
that
Don't trust
mommy
anyone over
and the child
30.
at
This
the
is not the appropriate
zoo.
time for confetti.
Landon, Nova already dead. But yeah.
That
no! Yeah,
scream
Nova
was
already dead.
me realizing that Lucius is dead. I'm screaming like all the fucking animals in the
Yeah.
zoo when Milo died.
Yeah. But the actor who played Milo apparently really, really hated putting the ape makeup on. So he's like,
Well,
thank
good.
God I die 5 seconds in. Thank God. Could not have done one more day here.
I can't believe that Zero left Lucius to die. What a bitch.
Right? Like, that
Well,
doesn't seem like something they would do.
I
but he was
don't know. She's
not in the
not all
second
good.
movie, so maybe he already died of natural causes. We don't know his deal.
I thought
Is
he
that
was
better?
one of
Does that comfort you?
No,
I thought he was
no,
one of
it's all
the
bad.
protesting apes, so maybe he got then.
They'd already thrown him
But
in
they just
jail.
put him in cages. They didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't have been able to escape then.
Treated
Okay,
them like
fine.
animals.
Oh, I'm
But yeah,
upset.
that was
He was
part
so
of
cute.
when we were talking about the first movie, especially with the IMDb logline saying that they were slaves and you saying that that was like more of a thing in the book. That's part of why I was like, I really don't think that they're slaves. They're just animals to them because we're going to talk about slavery later, baby. That's going to come up.
Yeah, they are definitely like animals to them, but it's still like a parallel to.
Yeah.
They were trying to make a comment on slavery, but they
And
definitely thought about them like how we
we'll
think
get
about
there.
chimpanzees that we do
Mhm.
science experiments on. So
We're going to talk about slavery at least 2 more times.
Did y'all hear recently there was like a research animal facility in South Carolina where a bunch of the chimpanzees broke out, and then they eventually, like, they couldn't find them for a while, and they finally lured them back into the facility using like McDonald's hamburgers or something like that.
No, they
You know
had
what?
their
Fair enough.
opportunity to rise. That could have been the rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Okay, but have you considered that a Big Mac is actually very tasty?
Yeah, well, they could have got it in another way. That's so rude of them to
Yeah,
use.
like a drive-through.
It's rude of them to use Big Macs that no one could ever say no to. That was rude of the
How dare
humans.
Wow.
they?
In this movie, they say that apes are vegetarians. I wonder if that's true. But I thought it was so funny because it's like very on and early on in the movie, and the military guys are being like, well, like, you know, we could bring them like a steak or whatever, and he's being like, as long as they're like red-blooded, meat-eating creatures like us, I think we can find common ground. And then it's like, apes are vegetarians, and he's like, I don't know anymore. Now I'm less sure.
Chimpanzees are omnivores.
Oh.
Great apes are more of herbivores than others, but they still eat a little other stuff sometimes. So they're not purists about it.
Okay.
Thank you, Google.
Thank you, Google. Did you know squirrels are omnivores as well? Huh. You think they just eat acorns? That's not true.
What's the meat thing
Mice,
that they eat?
sometimes.
Okay, all right.
Smaller squirrels.
People, sometimes.
People, don't say that.
People, if they stay still long enough.
Oh my God. I don't want to go that way. That'd be a really bad way to go. Okay, I guess it's time to start talking about when it's not fun anymore in the movie and it's sad instead, and it's bad and you're scared.
I was looking at my notes because as soon as we get to the president and the president's senior science advisor, Dr. Holstein or whatever his name is, they're like, what are you expecting from this conference where you're going to question the apes? And he's like, I'm expecting to experience fear. So he's coming in hot immediately, being like, I'm scared of them. There's something wrong here. This is not natural. They're gonna attack us. There's really no way for them not to just I'm gonna kill them on sight if I have my druthers.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because, like, obviously we love Zira and we love Cornelius because we've been through 3 movies with them, or 2.5 at this point in the film. But like, it's almost like a trolley problem. It's almost like the trolley problem, the like moral conundrum, because like he believes them right away. What's the science advisor's name? Mr.
Holstein or Lewis Dixon? Or who are you talking about?
It's
no,
something
the
with
science advisor.
H,
no, I know
right?
Dr. Dixon, Dr. Lewis Dixon, member of the fucking interspecial polycule.
Oh, Dr. Otto Haslien. That's his name.
Haslien, yeah. Dr. Haslien. Like, he is about 2,000 years ahead of himself, but he's like, if you knew what the cause of the fall of man would be and you had the opportunity to stop it, do you take that opportunity? I just think that whole conversation was so interesting because it's just like
they literally get into the would you kill baby Hitler discourse.
Would you kill baby Hitler discourse? That was crazy.
So immediately, would you kill baby Hitler? What if baby Hitler was still in utero? Would you kill him then? What about baby Hitler's ancestors? Would you kill baby Hitler's ancestors before baby Hitler was even a twinkle in anybody's eyes?
The correct answer
about
about
Hitler is it okay and not okay?
You keep him in art school and
let him in
his art school. Just let him. That's what you do. You say
guys,
yes.
I think Hitler might still be Hitler. We'll never know. We'll never know.
Axe to grind might have started there.
We should have just let George W. Bush be baseball commissioner.
If they just let Trump produce Broadway plays.
If they just would have let Trump have his reality TV show and he kept
his
the apprentice,
dad
none of this would have
putting
happened.
ideas in his head about what success looks like.
See, you can take this down many roads. It's a crazy moral quandary. No, but it is interesting because I don't know. I mean, like, Hosling is so terrified that he's not even willing to be scientific about it. He's just like, exterminate now. And there's
Mm-hmm.
so much, even if you're looking at it from like without your heart in the mix and you're just looking at it from a science perspective, there's so much to learn from these apes that could save the human race, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe you can see how their genetics work and see, I don't know if that would help them figure out how they fell or from power or whatever, or like having the knowledge, like having this firsthand accounts of people being like a nuclear fucking holocaust
Mm-hmm.
destroyed the fucking earth, and that is what's going to happen to your earth if you stay on this path, just having like literal witnesses to that,
Yeah. And
that
I
could
mean,
do so much.
they don't know what went down with the Doomsday nuke other than
They don't
some
even
sort of
know about the
explosion
human.
went off and exploded the world. Yeah, because I mean, maybe they know more than they're letting on in this movie. I don't know. I tend to think no, they really don't know about the Beneath
I don't
people.
think they could have possibly known.
They're
There
like,
wasn't
we don't
enough
know who
time.
the enemy was. We didn't see who the enemy was. And
I
for
think
sure,
that's
they don't know
crazy.
that the people are the ones who set off the fucking bomb. Because once again, man orchestrated his own demise. And you could
For
even
the
if you
second
like,
time.
yeah, even if you ignore the like nuclear holocaust that like set up the Planet of the Apes, which then ended in again another nuclear holocaust at the end of Beneath the Planet of the Apes, even if you ignore that and go with the origin story in this movie, which is that man decided to, I don't want to say reinstitute slavery because, slavery ongoing. But
Hmm.
man decided to create a new form of slavery with gorillas, and then
Mm-hmm.
the apes. Oh my God, I did it. I'm so sorry, apes.
Uh-oh.
The apes rose up and I know I'm sorry. The apes rose up and took everybody down. It's like, yeah, you don't get to just enslave creatures, people, whatever, forever and never expect anybody to do anything about it because at that point, what do they have to lose? So, yeah, eventually people will rise up. But it is just, it is
Yeah, I think
you
it's
guys are
so.
doing this and you keep ignoring the fact that you guys are the one doing this.
I think it's also very interesting. I think one of the like things that makes the least amount of sense in this as well is that they're like, okay, if the monkeys could the apes could just the apes could just, that was me rewinding the tape. If the apes could just like I can't remember what I was gonna say. If the apes could, sorry, evolve and like become like they were already sentient. That is not the word. Intelligent. Oh, there you go. Wow, very easy.
Not
Um, become
primitive the way that it's discussed in this
exactly.
movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I also love that little bit when
When they
Dr.
got mad at him and then
Lewis,
he's like,
and he's like,
actually our world is
we're
primitive compared to
primitive.
we're the
Primitive
primitive ones. Yeah,
society.
okay,
When
good cover
he
up,
was
Dr.
flirting.
Dixon.
And then right after that there's a part where like, I I really like you,
Yeah, I
Dr.
actually really
Dixon.
liked you. And then Cornelius is like, I actually
I've
liked him
liked him from the
first. So
beginning.
Yeah, so that's how you know that it's not a heterosexual polycule. There's more going
yeah,
on in there.
Mm-hmm.
I
But anyway,
that was one of my thoughts for how could it be gayer is everybody should be kissing everybody for doing
yeah.
kissing.
Sorry,
Yes.
I diverted from the smart thing we were talking about to do a little gay shit real quick. Now we can come back.
It's
And
necessary.
now we're back.
But I think it's interesting that they're like, okay, just how the apes could evolve, the humans could devolve in the face of that. I think that that's like kind of, I don't know, a logical fallacy in a way because I'm sure that could happen. Maybe I don't fucking know, but like maybe like the humans that were like the most intelligent like fought back and were killed, and so then like more like people who were like more willing to just like go with
Yeah.
the flows to not be killed like
What is it called?
were
The survival
proliferated.
of the fittest, but in this case the fittest was the meek, who are willing to not fight
Yeah,
back and be killed, and
but
that's how you
I guess
ensure survival and
I guess that could be a thing. I just have
They
never
say in
really
this
thought about that
movie
before.
they're like atrophied
Yeah.
vocal boxes or whatever. Whereas like in the first one, they're like, we're studying their brains to figure out why they can't talk. So like again, a little more retconning. In the first one, they're like, they haven't evolved to be able to, and now in this one, they're like, they've lost that ability.
Yeah.
Which is just the different narratives, but
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's just like the way that Dr. Hasleen is going about this is obviously wrong. Like, I understand where his fear is coming from, but it's not like if they just had containment over the issue a little bit better from the start, then I feel like they could be a little less freaked out. But like, it is really interesting to bring the baby aspect into it because that is, again, a big part of what happens in the book.
and they asked that
Nova and
question.
Ulysses have a child, and they're like, will this child be able to speak? Will this
Mm-hmm.
child do be bringing this back into like bringing
The gene
intelligence
pool.
back to the humans into the gene pool. And I don't know. Well, I don't know because Ulysses fucked Nova, so that wasn't weird to him, I guess. But I was like, will this ape baby Milo want to fuck an ape that does can't talk to him or whatever? So like, I don't really
Yeah.
like know how far it goes, but they're not even willing to let it get to that stage. They're not willing to learn. They just want he just wants to shut it down at the source.
I think in terms of Taylor, obviously he had extenuating circumstances where he landed on what he thought was a foreign planet a bazillion years in the future and then
Yeah.
discovered he was all alone. But I think it is like, okay, this is something that I did want to talk about and then I never brought up during Monster Fucker February
Huh?
is in Doctor Who, there's that character Jack Harkness and then he has his spin-off show Torchwood. I
Oh
didn't
yeah, I
watch
never
that, but
watched Torchwood.
he frequently does cross species flirting. And he even there's like a system of rules that fandom references, at least I don't know how explicitly it's included in the show, but there's a system of rules of like, can you fuck this person? And it's like, are they of the age of maturity for their species? Do they have like comparable intelligence and like can you communicate or something like that? And you could argue that like Nova and Taylor don't meet that criteria.
Mm-hmm.
But also when you're the same species and you're all alone and it's not like he was chasing Nova
Well,
down,
But
presumably.
also too,
it's also
I will go overseas and I've hooked up with people and I do not speak Spanish or
Sure.
Italian or French.
But
That's never stopped me
communicate can be
before.
like shape of water. You know what I mean? Like they
True.
don't
yeah.
speak the same language, but they're still able to communicate with each other in a way.
And in the book, it's a very interesting thing too, because like when they actually do the sex, and there's that whole bird dance I was talking about last episode. Like this is at a point where he has been like so beaten down and is so like
He's going to like base instincts.
scared. Yeah, so he's just like he's been fucking like trapped in a cage for months and that will affect you like we talked
Mm-hmm.
about with that other character in the book where he loses his mind because he's around all other humans who can't speak and the monkey or sorry the apes can speak and it's so psychologically taxing to him that it breaks him like this is like Taylor's character who is Ulysses in the book like him getting close to that point and then like trying to go to his like base comforts and also just to make that part seem a little bit better like by the end of the book like Nova can speak um fluently in French
Oh,
by the way it's still French yeah, she is like similar to Nova in the movies. She like is a little brighter than the rest of them. Just like she like not that she's like special, but she's just like more keen to learn, I guess, or like
she's
maybe
also
she
got more
just like
direct exposure right next to Taylor in the same
yeah. But just
cage.
how like some people
Have
I don't
different
know,
skill sets
just
than others.
the Punnett square punted it out her, and she was prone to be able to speak more than the average other human that was around there. So she was not on the same intellectual level as him, of course, but she gets closer to that by the end of the book and can speak fluently. And it's not like that one part in Beneath when she's like, Taylor. Yeah. Fucking goddamn it. Brutal. But God, yeah. I just feel so bad that Cornelius is so fucking strong that he murked that guy with one little boop bop of a tray.
That's
That
the
really set things
thing.
back. That really set things back.
I mean, oh,
You're
you're muted.
muted.
Sometimes a little accidental murder.
It
Go a long
happens,
way.
okay? But yeah, I mean, I think that is a really interesting element of the overall conversation of this movie. What did we say his name was? Halsey
Halsleen. Hasleen.
Hasling. I think he was going to find a way to justify what he was going to do regardless. But his argument is very much rooted in if they're going to one day destroy us, is it not right for us to defend ourselves ahead of time? Essentially, is what he's saying. And like, Cornelius is a pacifist. He makes that really, really clear. But what does that mean? He is anti-war. We can, kind of make that leap. But does that mean he doesn't believe in self-defense, the defense of
No.
others? Like, that's clearly
Defense of
not
his
true.
pregnant
But
wife.
yeah, but he also, it's just like one moment where he loses his temper. At the end, he does get a gun and,
Does some killing.
yeah, but his pretense for getting the gun at least is like, let us take ourselves out instead of be taken out. And you can, make your arguments about whether or not he meant that when he said that. Um, but at the very least, there is a very natural inclination to want to survive and to want your loved ones to survive and to protect them. And I think that is the thing that is really difficult about war, is, a lot of the time wars are started because there is the perception of a threat or future threat that you're trying to get ahead of, instead of waiting for a threat to happen or violence to happen and then react to it. It's messy territory.
Well, also, I just had a thought too. I think another reason why Cornelius could have been pushed to violence in the latter half of this movie is after what he saw in the fight that he went
Oh
to as
yeah.
well. Because he's just sitting there and he looks
Beastly.
horrified and he calls it beastly, yeah. And he's shocked by it, but he's also calculating, like, oh, this is what humans like to look at for fun.
They're doing this
This
for
is
entertainment. It's actually
entertainment to them.
just
What's
like
gonna
Dr. J has
happen?
said.
Yeah, it's like what's gonna fucking happen if something real's going on? Like they're gonna jump to violence as well. So I think he might have had his hackles up and his defenses up after that point, which was the right thing to do, unfortunately, because actually everyone was out to get them in the end.
Yeah, they were.
Or many were.
When she leaves her suitcase behind, I was like,
I was
girl, first of
so
all, make your
mad.
husband carry that.
Yeah, because
Yes,
that bag was
the
adorable.
baby's gonna need stuff.
But I don't really
Oh,
know how they made the jump exactly from like the oil drilling to the tankers to for Hall's. Why can I not remember? Hasleen,
Paul's Hasleen.
Dr. Otto. I remember his first name is Otto Hasleen. For him to go so specifically to the exact point and pull out his binoculars and go, "Oh, there they are!" Like that is kind of a crazy leap. But also
Well,
whatever.
there's they I don't know. We're skipping over my favorite thing, which is the
Oh,
circus,
yes, I
Yes.
love this
which is
circus.
so important. And okay, this was a
Armando.
very exciting part for me because there and for you guys too, I think you've been there. There's a theater in Hollywood called the Montalban Theater,
Mm-hmm.
and it's named
Mm.
after Ricardo Montalban. And I
Mm-hmm.
saw his name in the
In the opening.
opening credits or whatever, and I was excited to see where he came in. But yeah, he is Armando and he's incredible, and he also has a great sci-fi past. He's a well-known actor, that's why they put him in that role. he's definitely supposed to be like the oh shit legitimizing sci-fi
Yeah.
guy who's in there. But he's fucking Khan in Star Trek, dude. That's sick. I need to see him as Khan. But I think he's a really compelling actor and very handsome.
And very flirtatious.
As he should be.
Yeah.
Apes are my favorite, and chimpanzees are my favorite of the apes. And actually, Zira, you are my favorite of them all. All right, girl.
Yeah, man, he would have joined the
Piss
polycule.
already.
He was
He
ready.
would've joined the
He was ready to
polycule.
risk it all for Zira.
Zira loves to kiss. I'm just saying, it's like a missed opportunity.
I know. Ugh. I think the whole baby switch out thing is so interesting. Yeah.
They knew.
I mean, it's so smart. Yeah, but Zira knew. Cornelius didn't know though.
No, but like she knew what was like coming a
Yeah.
little bit. Like she was
She's
Zira
like,
definitely
knew
more
they
of like the
wouldn't
pragmatist
survive.
between
Yeah.
them.
But I just think it's so sad that she had to keep that from him because I don't think he
Yeah.
was in on it at all.
Yeah.
It's just the ending just gets so tragic. It is so lighthearted and fun. And then it's like, let's talk about killing baby Hitler. And then it's just downhill from there.
you can't bounce back from
Oh.
killing baby Hitler, you know? Like it's really weighing everything down after.
It is really tough because, of course, you completely understand that Zira will do anything to protect her child, and that is not wrong. But she is also dooming this other little ape baby that is so cute as well. And also, it's so funny to see a
And they
person
look
in a chimpanzee costume
exactly
holding
the
a
same.
real baby
Baby
chimpanzee.
chimpanzee.
Did we see them in the same shot? I'm not convinced there wasn't just one.
It was probably just one.
For a
That's just the
believable
one-
switch.
The one chimpanzee actor. It was only a
just
$2
like
million
Lindsay Lohan and
budget.
Parent Trap.
Okay.
Exactly.
So funny. But yeah, no, it's just so tragic and it just gets so bleak so fast. I was like, we're at a circus. Yay, it's fun. Oh, the boyfriends and the girlfriends are reunited at the circus and now there's a new boyfriend.
Yay.
It's Armando. I love him. We're having a wonderful time. But of course, fucking Hosling is so smart. He's like, check the circus. That's where
No, that other guy is like, oh, apes go to other apes. And he's like, you've solved it. We have to check all the apes in the circuses. Yeah. Check every menagerie in town. And that other guy's like, oh, I did it.
Oh. I
So he's
just
in the corner like, oh, did I solve it?
Did I do that?
The president's gonna give me a medal, maybe?
why did everybody have to get gunned down so horrifically? And the blood was neon red. The blood was
Right.
neon
You gotta be able to see it,
red.
Monica, okay?
I'm
They
glad
said that it wasn't clear enough for Chelsea and Beneath the Planet of the Apes that Nova had been shot. We gotta make this blood a little more neon.
They had to. And they did the same thing. They shot Zira in the back.
Yeah.
Bro. And what? Okay, wait.
The way it
there's
almost
so
looks
many
like she like
questions.
falls on her baby. Not her baby.
She
I
throws
guess,
her
but-
baby on the ground to be so clear, and then she falls down. She literally throws the baby on the ground, and then he shoots the baby like
He
20
shoots
times.
the baby.
Yeah.
He
It's
shoots the
crazy.
baby like 20 times. We were watching a movie where a baby is being shot a billion times. And then what fucking happened with Cornelius? What happened? Did he get shot in the throat? Is that why he was like, oh, and he fell off the thing? What
He could
was
have gotten
that?
shot in the chest and like it hit his lung. You
It
know,
was
Yeah.
There's a lot
just so
of-
disturbing, and I could see his fake mouth and his real mouth, and I was like, "Why would this be the close-up? Why are we focusing on this
It did
as
look
an
like-
emotional
yeah.
moment?" It was so weird. It really took me out of it for a second. I was like, "What? What?" And then he fell off a cliff.
It was
Yeah.
also
And
really
then-
sad when she like throws the baby into the water.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Why?
Part of me was wondering like maybe it would sink so they
I
couldn't
think she was
like
maybe hoping
get it.
they couldn't examine it.
But it was
And
like a
realized that-
dolly of a chimpanzee, so it was just floating right on top
Yeah.
of the water.
That blanket's super buoyant.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was so bizarre to me. I was like, I guess, but like all the fucking entire National Guard is right here,
Right there.
right now.
Ew, it'd be gross to jump in though. There's 2 dead bodies right there.
I don't
There's
want
oil and
to.
dead fish. It's like the
Yeah.
dead chimp body is in the water just floating, and then Hasleen's like sprawled out in the water before. It's gruesome, man.
It really
Usually you don't
honestly
see a baby get shot 20 times. Sorry.
they thought that they could get away with it because it was an ape baby. Guess what? It's actually still incredibly horrifying.
Right?
Yeah.
But it should have tipped off the government, you'd think, that like she just like throws the baby away and then crawls over to die with her husband.
Ugh.
She's like, get that baby
Yeah.
out of here.
Well, how
I don't
would
know.
they
I'm
have
sure there's
been
like
able to figure out that it
I
wasn't?
don't know. It's so
Yeah,
wild.
it's not all adding up. But yeah, like, and then you think it can't get more disturbing because the baby just got shot 20 times.
Right?
But actually, I think the final ending is more disturbing, or at least on par. Mama.
It's like they had to keep that baby wrapped in that blanket so that you couldn't see whether it was wearing a necklace or not.
Yeah.
Just for them to cut back to the baby in the circus. But poor Salome out here in the ocean, dead, and poor Heloise out here lost her baby. But they cut back. The way it's so funny too, they're like, we got 1 second shot of the baby chimp looking like it's about to say something, and we're just gonna like play it, reverse it, play it, reverse it, play it,
They're
reverse
like, it looks like it's going mama. And so we just have to, we'll never get that again.
it.
It's so weird. That was so weird. It was just, it would be disturbing if it was an ape just being like, a chimpanzee being like, mama, mama, whatever. But the fact that the tape is like a little herky jerky thing. Oh, very unsettling. Very unsettling. It's a found footage film.
Which is also like, okay, I actually love that that's the ending line because that is the thing that like saved them in the first movie when they found that baby doll that says
Mama.
because before that they were like, this is just ape ruins from ape society, and it's like, why would there be a
Yeah.
human baby doll that
That
speaks?
talks.
So it is an omen that portends societal change.
In the book, the doll says Papa, and that's on French society.
Ew,
Read into that what you will.
I'm so glad they made that change.
I know. Okay. It's time for our segment.
Segmento?
Yes, I think it is. All right. How could this movie be gay? It's
Well,
pretty
obviously a
gay. I don't
polycule.
know.
Yeah.
There is a queer multi-special relationship happening in this film, or it was a burgeoning. It didn't get to really happen quite
Come
yet,
to
but
fruition.
I know it would have.
If given enough time.
I know it would have.
Yeah, it's interesting because they do a lot of like heteronormative bullshit about like husbands and wives and blah 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 blah. Like that's so throughout the movie.
Okay.
Boring.
But boring. 100%. Like, well, first of all, again, I don't remember if I brought this up last episode. But animals are gay in the wild sometimes. So you're
Yeah.
telling me that these are
Yeah.
apes and these are apes that have evolved over centuries, let's say.
And none of them are gay.
None of them are gay. I don't believe you. I mean, maybe once again, this is like the religious agenda oppressing gay society.
I
Who
think
knows?
it is.
I think very possible that
It's only
the
the
big
70s
ape
for
giver
the
or
apes
whatever.
as well.
Yeah. But I do think that Cornelius, as a scientist, is forward thinking enough that when Zira decided she needed to give Lewis a little kiss, that he also should have given Lewis a little kiss.
Yeah.
That's true.
It was
I
right
agree.
there.
I mean, I think that Armando, once he entered, is his name Armando or Armand?
Armando.
No.
Armando. Okay. When Armando enters the polycule, in a future where they're not half of them all dead, He would have really facilitated the boy on boy action, I think,
Mhm.
because he's just got that kind of energy.
He
That
would have been
vibe.
He
the
would have,
bisexual glue that held the
yeah.
whole Q together, you know?
That really helps them
Mhm.
all start to explore and feel
Each other's
comfortable
bodies,
to
yeah.
do so,
Yeah.
and like they're allowed and
Yeah.
it's natural and it's fine, and start to break down their own biases.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, I'm excited that there was a interspecies polycule in this movie. I didn't see it coming, but I should have because the groundwork had
You
been
should
laid in
have.
the last two films. And
Zira is
so
really always out here trying to find a white man boyfriend.
she's
Mhm.
gotten so much more used to it too. She's not even like, you ugly son of a bitch right before kissing him. Now she's like, actually,
I kind of
kind
like
of
that you're
cute.
ugly. It's kind of actually
I
appealing
like
to me in its
that.
own
I'm like,
way.
listen,
I'm getting
everybody
used
loves a
to a
medium
shaved
ugly
face.
man, including Miss Xena over here.
Zira.
Ugh,
Just thinking a Xenon girl of the
I
21st
am.
century. I see what's
And
happening. Don't worry.
their clothes in the Ape Planet are also giving Xena warrior princess. So
Totally. Okay, any other gay thoughts you'd like to share?
So many more gay thoughts.
That brings us to Matthew Lillard. Where would he go in this beautiful film? He could have been in the polycule as Dr. Lewis Dixon.
He would
Natural
have been
spot.
in the gorilla suit.
oh, he I think he
Stop.
was. I think they said an
That is
adult
him.
man is gonna look crazy in this suit. We have to have it be a little boy. So they brought child Matthew Lillard onto the actually
Was he
he
alive
might
then?
have been 1 year old.
He was born in 1970. So
Yeah,
he
he was
I
one
was
year
like
old.
I was like, how do you think he's really aging him up here?
Yeah.
Making him 65 years old. Which is still a nice youthful age. He's
Yeah.
55. He just turned 55 and he looks fantastic. Um, I love him as a child baby. He's actually the chimpanzee that gets shot 20 times.
I think actually, it's like Scream 2, where when we're at the party scene at the Wilshire Hotel and people are playing on like the seesaw and you're just having like fun party time, he's just in the background, like at the fraternity party. So I think that's where he appears in this film.
Perfect. That
Oh,
makes sense to me.
he could have been the priest.
What?
Wedded! He gets
Yes.
like one line and it's a
Yes.
banger.
So
So
fucking funny.
memorable.
Those are good ones for him. Okay, that brings us to our dumb bitch.
I would like
Hi.
to do small anti-dumb bitch for the president who's actually pretty
He was
reasonable
Yeah.
most of the time,
perfect
really
for the
refreshing in
job.
Gone are
today's
the
day and
days
age.
of
Um,
a reasonable president.
the way he really comes in and is like, centuries from now sounds like not my problem. I think that that is a very reasonable outlook to have in this particular scenario. That
Yeah.
said, I'd like to give my dumb bitch nomination to Dr. Otto Haseline,
Yep.
because he has this quote. That's what I'm worried about later. Later, we'll do something about pollution. Later, we'll do something about the population explosion. Later, we'll do something about the nuclear war. We think we've got all the time in the world. How much time has the world got? Somebody has to begin to care. And that's an incredible line. And he's right, except, girl, you could have started with pollution. Instead, he went straight to let's murder the war refugees.
Right.
He's got some of the things, some of the cogs are turning in the right direction, and then the other ones are going straight to murder. And we're not loving that. We're not loving that.
He's like, guys, I'm actually trying to save your moral souls from having to do a genocide a few generations from now. We only have to kill 3 today. That's not good, Dr.
It's not good. Any
But
murder is not
later
good.
we'll do something about pollution. Do something about pollution now. But get your priorities in order.
No, we have to kill a baby monkey first.
We
20
have to
It's
times
actually
it
shoot
must
a
so
be shot.
baby
important.
monkey 20 times. Ape, ape.
That
Y'all.
was my Sorry,
I
sorry. I
yeah,
did that.
that
It
I
was
blame
me.
Monica for that one.
You can blame me for that one. Okay, dumb bitch is definitely Hosling, so whatever. That brings us to our knives out of fives. How many Oscars?
Tragically, no new Oscars for this film. I think for sure they're
Wow.
gonna come for 4 and 5. Um, but like I said earlier, all five of the original Planet of the Apes movies debuted at #1 at the box office,
As
so
they
they were
should.
Yeah.
all successful. And its first week, it made $4.3 million basically. So that's more than its budget in week one. Um, but
Nice.
on IMDb, as far as the numbers go, it has a 6.3 out of 10, which I think is like kind of comparable to the second one. But interestingly, when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes, if you'll recall, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, everybody said it was a stinker. Overall, audiences maybe kind of felt the same way. They loved it, but they kind of felt the same way. Audiences gave it 53% rotten, on Rotten Tomatoes for this movie. Critics, however, they were back in 75% fresh.
Interesting. I
Hmm.
haven't actually thought about can you review the tapes, Chelsea, and let us
Of
know
what we
what we
Yeah.
did,
do? Yeah, what we said
yeah,
last
our
week.
previous knives. Um, Last week, Sydney gave Planet of the Apes 3.5 knives out of fives, and Beneath 3 knives out of 5s. Monica gave Planet of the Apes 3.9 knives out of fives, and Beneath 3.3. I gave Planet of the Apes 5 knives out of 5s, and Beneath got 3.5 knives out of fives from me. I can lead the charge on this one if you guys
Okay,
want.
go for it. I don't think.
Um, Yeah, I mean, like I said, the premise of this one is kind of one of my favorites because I think it is so fucking hilarious to be like, we exploded the planet. We said the planet is dead. No more sequels.
Explicitly.
Explicitly,
Sequel.
everyone is dead. We told you that. We put it in writing. We said it out loud. There's no way to go back on that. And then they
Mr.
went,
Movie Phone said
well,
it to you.
I guess they could get on the spaceship and they could go back through time and they could go to the 70s of it. Like, I just think that is such a
Well, apes
hilarious.
exist. Sequel required.
It's so, so funny to me, just as like a way to be like, well, where do we go from here? We can't stay on this planet,
Wherever we
but what
fucking
we
want.
could do is go back in time. I don't love the like retconning about the rise of society for the apes. I mean, it's like we'll talk about it more in one of our other episodes. But my preference, my favorite interpretation for a Planet of the Apes like origin story is just that like humans destroyed the world and things evolved naturally in their own way over time. I think that's the most interesting perspective to take is to say
Mhm.
like, okay, in a vacuum as things move forward, do they go the same way? Do they go a different way? If they go the same way, how do they address the same conundrums that we face in our world? What would they do differently if they could learn from our example? Um, I think that's just like a super interesting conversation to have, and is part of why I love the first one. So that is my least favorite aspect of this movie, that they just kind of like wave all that away.
Mhm.
Um, but I love the 70s vibes. I love the time travel. I love the theory of time travel that they offer about the highways. That one I think is super interesting. Like you're all on lanes going from
Oh,
past to future, but it's not all the same future because one car crashes and one car gets off the highway, whatever they
multiverse of
say.
madness. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's such
Sorry.
an interesting way to address time travel. But I think this movie is so political, also so interesting, has so much to say. I think it's so fantastic. Like I said, it does lose a few points, but I'm gonna go ahead and give it like a 4.35, I think, because I love her.
Okay. Sydney, do you want to go next?
Sure. I think I liked this one as much as I liked the first one, just in like very different ways, you know? So I'll give it
Hmm.
a 3.5 out of 5. Um, I hate the ending because like
Because the baby got
Vera,
shot 20
Because the
times.
baby got shot 20 times.
not even that. Mostly because
That was fun.
yeah, that was fine. I can excuse a baby being shot 20 times, but Zira and Cornelius dying, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah.
Because like, do we not get them in the last two movies? Do they come back, Chelsea?
From what I've read, it seems like they don't come back. It's not a spoiler. They're dead at the end of this. So, like, I think they're telling me the truth. But don't tell me if I'm wrong, because then
but
that's a
like,
spoiler.
they
I'll
were my
tell you,
favorite part of the
Roddy
first movie.
McDowell comes back, as does that actress who plays Albina and Stevie in this movie.
But that doesn't mean that they're the same people, because they do that in this. Anyway, keep going, Sydney. I'm sorry.
But so this movie was funny. This movie was I loved seeing the 70s Los Angeles. I had a really good time watching this movie. Also, I want this progressive president. Sign me up for him.
He seems
Yeah.
great.
He seems cool. And he's also so funny in that scene where he's like, all right, this is gonna be kind of crazy, but these apenauts or whatever you call it.
Yeah, Apenauts goes hard.
Apenauts so funny.
Apenauts. Oh my God. Okay. This is hard. This is very hard. I don't want to give it more than I will not give it more than 3.9 because I don't think it is better than Planet of the Apes. And that is the scale in which I have set for myself. And so we must stay within those bounds. Um, it's so interesting. They really are running the gambit of different like tonal avenues you can travel by, similar to the many highways.
All
You
the
can
different
go
lanes.
down a highway that goes under the ground and there's mutants down there. Or you can go on another highway that drives right by the ocean. That highway is PCH and you're in Los Angeles. There's just so much going on. I loved the LA of it all. I loved the fashion so much. I loved how silly it was, but it's just like kind of a tonal like slap in the face because the other ones are all so fucking serious and then this one is so like and then it's
Well,
like JK now the
yeah.
baby's getting shot 20 times.
The other ones are like crazy soapy, actually, in a way we didn't really discuss, where he's
Yeah.
like, it's a mouse! Like, it's like soap opera-esque at
Yeah.
points, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
like silly in the same ways.
No. Like there's some jokes, but this one is like literally so silly.
They're being
Like
goofy.
they're being goofy. Oh my God. Yeah, it's just it's really all over the place. But I love that it goes back to the source text and gets into that conversation that we don't have in any of the rest of the movies or we don't get there quite yet. Like I love that moral quandary, that like different, not the same, but like almost trolley problem type of thing where it's just like
Yeah.
if you know that this is the rock that starts the fucking mudslide or the rock slide that will end humanity, or you think that you do, like what do you do about that? And
Hmm.
like responding
You,
with fear is not the right answer because you need all you can need to save humanity is more information and then you're cutting your information off of the source. So I thought that that was really, really interesting. I love what you brought up about the immigration and war refugee parallels too. That really adds to the quandary as well. Yeah, this movie's all fucking over the place. It is the retcons made me crazy, so I'm really having a hard time with the struggle. With the struggle, 3.3 is what I gave the last one.
you gave the first one
3.9.
3.9 and the second one 3.3.
3.3. Okay. I'll split the difference and I'll give this a 3.6. Easy. But I did
Slay.
really like it. I did really like it a lot. But you should not have called this the craziest one because that was certainly so
Yeah.
far the second one was the
Second one.
craziest one.
Yep, the second one
Yeah.
is absolutely batshit.
I meant more the premise of like
No,
traveling back
that
and
is crazy. To be like, by the way, though,
yeah.
yeah, like we went through a time loop back in time to the 70s. Like,
Like
let's
a
go.
second ship was right behind the first ship. It's like, all right, but it's like we got one of those ships from the bottom of that lake, and then we made it operational, and then we went into space, and then we watched the world
Of
explode.
course we
Thank God we
did.
went up just in time. We got
Sorry it
out
took me so
just in
long to
time
decide
before
my
they set off
score.
the nuclear bomb. It's just so silly.
It's so silly. But next week, there's more apes, aren't
Next
there,
week
Chelsea?
there's
Apes,
more.
apes,
Yes.
apes, apes.
Next week we have another double feature. We are finishing off the original Planet of the Apes movies. So we are doing Conquest of the Planet of the Apes and Battle for the Planet of the Apes. And just for reference, if you're wondering, these movies are all coming out back to fucking back after that first one dropped in 1968. So it was like 1968, 2 year break for until Beneath the Planet of the Apes came out in 1970, and then this movie, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, in 1971. Conquest comes out in 72, and Battle comes out in 73. So they are doing a speed run, absolutely. But I'm very curious to see what you guys think of those two movies. So I'm
I got
I also
lightly
just
spoiled
think
right now.
yeah, I also unfortunately saw a major spoiler when I was watching the third movie, so we can talk about that later. Because I'd love to, you
No.
can text me what your spoiler is. But I think the four and five, they're I don't like them quite as much as the first three, but I think they're gonna lay some really good groundwork for when we talk about 2001 Planet of the Apes and 2011 Rise of the Planet of the Apes. That's a spoiler for the rest of the lineup, but
That's fine. They should know. They
they
should
should know
know.
what
So
Planet of the
if
April is
you,
all about.
Yep, they
yeah.
gotta know.
Well, I'm excited because I think that I really want to see what the fuck they could do to try to close out this 5 movie arc. I have no idea. I never can guess what they're gonna do next, so I am excited to not even try.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really fun. Also, the reason that I did make that excited face 5 seconds ago and then did get lightly spoiled, but I don't actually know what it means. I don't know
Okay.
what I saw means at all, so it's fine. But I was on Roddy McDowell's IMDb, Roddy who played
Mm.
Cornelius, and he's fucking Peter Vincent in Fright Night. He's the old guy
Oh.
in Fright Night who has the television show about being like a vampire slayer or whatever, who's
Love
supposed to
him.
be based off of Vincent Price and that other guy whose name escapes me right now. Anyway, he's so good in that. So what a fucking horror icon. Or I guess this technically wasn't a horror movie, but
I
movie
feel like
icon.
he was in something. Maybe it was Fright Night. I was looking at somebody's IMDb, I think, last episode, and I was like, oh my God, we didn't even talk about how they were in XYZ. But now I don't remember what it was.
Well,
It could have
I'm
been him.
excited. He's also plays the voice of Mr. Soil in the Bugs Life
I
video
saw
game. So
that.
he's really all over the place. But anyway, I'm really excited. We're doing Planet of the April, and I think that this would be a really good opportunity for you, fair listener, to dive into our review section on Apple Podcasts and say, God, Chelsea, you can tell that you planned this for a whole year. And boy, is it going well. 10 out of 10, but I
You came
can't
up
do
with
that, so I'll give you
10
5
different
stars.
lineups before you finalized one.
Or say, God, Chelsea, I'd love to see what those other lineups might have looked like. You care to share with the class in a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts?
I just want to say we're only not even quite halfway through. But if anybody is tired of Planet of the April already, you guys are lucky we didn't go with my lineup where it was a double feature every week so we could try
Yeah.
and incorporate more of the new franchise. That would have really gotten your gears.
I was scared of that one. I was
Yeah,
like, I
that
do have to
one made
do
me
some other things in
nervous.
my
Yeah.
life besides record the podcast, just like a
Oh,
few like eat, sleep,
yes.
breathe.
I'll release it at some point because I do think like some of the originals and some of the new ones would make a really good pair, but I don't think it would have worked as a lineup because I think having the base of all of the originals before you get into what comes later is
Yeah.
very informative.
And I
Chelsea,
just
will
love
you make a
diving into an
meme
old
of like
franchise.
your face on like the Charlie Day and
Yes!
just like the connected
Yes!
planet
That's
of the
exactly
Apes,
what
and
it
then Chelsea
was.
like, ah!
Oh, by the way, we'll also accept a 5-star rating on Spotify. Just have to say it. And also,
Yeah.
why not follow us on social media? That's where you can see the meme we just talked about that will likely occur. We're at spooky_Tuesday on pretty much everything except for Facebook and Tumblr, where we're at Spooky Tuesday Pod. Go to www.spookytuesdaypod.com and you will find a one-stop shop for everything about us that we will let you know, including a link to our Patreon. And that's where you'll find out even more about us because we're sharing all of our woes in there every single day. That's not true. It's just me doing that. But we have a really fun chat going in the Discord every day, and we do movie watching things sometimes. We pop in there. It's really fun. So you should become a patron and support us. We would love that. And also, why not subscribe to our YouTube channel? It's really popping off over there these days, and we're all looking rather dashing today. Chelsea's in her 70s shirt. Sydney looks like Sophie Thatcher a lot right now, and I've been really attracted to her the whole episode. I've been keeping it together. And I'm dressed as the lady who dresses up to show Zira her outfit. So there you go. It's beautiful. So yeah, subscribe to us on YouTube so we can monetize. Thank you so much. And at the end of the day, I have to say thank you for listening. Sorry the baby got shot 20 times. And I'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye, spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Great18. That's GR818_. And our podcast art is by Ryan Brom, who you can follow on Instagram at Ryan Brom Art. That's RyanBrommArt. Learn more about Spooky Tuesday at spookytuesdaypod.com and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/spooky_Tuesday.